Build more schools, not battleships. Sounds like a Chick-fil-A billboard. Eat more chicken. Listen, we need more hospitals and power plants instead of bombers. A better healthcare system to achieve a higher quality of life. I'm a 100% service-connected disabled Army veteran. I completely understand the importance of a strong defense. However, we need to draw the line somewhere. I'm not in favor of supporting the military-industrial complex. Simply put, defense contractors and their stockholders are profiting off the American taxpayer. Why should we lower our defense budget? The defense budget of the United States is currently at $778 billion, more than the next 11 highest countries in the world. According to a recent article in Infographics, that amounts to 11% of our GDP. Comparatively speaking, we spend only 3.6% of our GDP on education, and we're also spending 18.6% on healthcare. We are in the middle of a pandemic with not enough medical staff or facilities to care for those that are suffering during this crisis. We need a more efficient power grid. A failing or inadequate power grid can cause schools to close down, and this will hinder the learning ability or learning capacity of our children. Now that the need has been identified, let's talk about some solutions. One possible solution is to implement legislation that will limit the ability of lobbyists to lobby for expensive weapon systems. The second would be to hold defense contractors responsible for cost overruns, delays in production and procurement, and the delivery of those weapon systems. So now that we've identified some potential solutions, let's look at how this directly impacts you on a daily basis. According to a KENS 5 article published in 2017, San Antonio's largest school district went from 85,000 to 105,000 students in 10 years. This is expected to climb rapidly to 117,000. The demand for new schools far outweighs the demand for billion-dollar submarines. Let me give you a comparison. In 2017, John Marshall Harlan High School was opened in Northside Independent School District located in Bexar County at the cost of $110 million. The Navy's most recently commissioned aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, was $15 billion. For the price of just one ship, we could build 527 Harlan High Schools across the country. State-of-the-art modern high schools compared to the building of a Cold War ship against an enemy that no longer exists. Remember the Snowmageddon snowstorm of 2021? The Texas power grid had a catastrophic failure and shutdown. It left millions without power and potentially caused the death of 700 Texas residents. What we need is a more efficient power grid, one that can supply the demands of a rising Texas population and the current changes in weather patterns. According to President Eisenhower's Cross of Iron speech, he said the following: "The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. It is 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 in population. It is 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals." Remember, this speech was given in 1953. The current price tag of a B-2 bomber is over $1 billion. The cost of a Virginia-class submarine is $3.4 billion. The cost of the USS Zumwalt, the Navy's newest destroyer, is now approaching $7.3 billion per ship, and it's costing the American taxpayer $25,000 an hour to fly the F-15 fighter plane. Amid the current pandemic, the lack of sufficient hospital facilities has become more apparent. We lack the necessary number of personnel to treat the ongoing COVID crisis. To compound this deficiency even further, we have an ever-increasing price in healthcare. The U.S. spends more on healthcare per person per capita compared to any other Western country. We also have less doctors and less nurses, 25 and 83 for every 10,000 people respectively. Yet the United States suffers from the lowest life expectancy of all currently developed Western nations. The life expectancy of the average U.S. citizen is 78.7 years, while Spain and Switzerland have the highest at 83.5 and 83.8 respectively. So, given multiple visuals on the extent of how military spending affects our daily lives, what can we do to implement some change? First thing, if we want better healthcare, more schools, a better infrastructure, we need to lower the defense budget. So how do we do that? Petition your elected officials to implement legislation to rein in excessive defense spending and costly weapon systems. Remove the lobbying power of defense contractors and remain vigilant against the excesses and gross profiteering of the military-industrial complex that President Eisenhower warned us of. Better legislation, such as the 1992 Nunn-McCurdy Law, which states that all weapons programs with a 25% cost overrun must be canceled unless they are vital to national security. According to an article in Washington Technology, the 2009 Weapons Systems Acquisition Reform Act by Senator Carl Levin and John McCain would require re-examination of defense contracts if their costs increased more than 25% from the initial estimate. The Defense Department's 95 largest acquisitions programs are currently an average of 2 years behind schedule, and their original budgets are costing the American taxpayer over $3 billion in excess. This bill would go even further than the Nunn-McCurdy Law, calling your congressional reps and senators and help elect those candidates who have agendas that will focus on social topics and fiscal responsibility. Resist the propaganda of hawkish politicians and media. Write to your local newspaper opinion columnists and express your concern over runaway defense budgets, school overcrowding, a failing infrastructure, the rising cost of healthcare, and the declining quality of life. Together, we can make this country a safer, healthier, and more educated place to live while still being able to defend our nation. Thank you very much for your time and your patience, and have a great day.